Then head over to Stevie Jo's website to subscribe to her monthly newsletter. All new subscribers receive a preview of the current Angel of Death work in progress. Plus, all subscribers get free shipping on all orders for 2023. Head over to steviejoauthor.com to subscribe and receive the promo code. The Good Shepherd, fourth in the Angel of Death series. Now available in paperback, hardcover, and dust jacket. Order yours directly from steviejoauthor.com for the lowest price.
Hi guys, welcome to the Composition of Imagination. I am your host and author, Stevie Jo, and this is the show where we break down the Angel of Death book series that I've written. Sometimes we'll talk about my writing process and then just the fun ways that we get the books into your hands. So today is a very special, unique day because I am joined only by one book guardian. This is Jason, Superman, as you know. This is the second episode of our brand new sub-series on the channel called Murmurs of Murr County, where we talk all about, for the whole month, we focus on one character and break down their motives, their character development, all those things related to one specific character. And what they do and the choices they make throughout the book. And this week, we are focusing on Skyelar Jericho, our lovely leading lady, and what she does in book 2, False Idols. So if you did not watch the previous video, I really strongly recommend it because that will help lead you into this, because we're going to jump into this on the assumption you already know what's happening, so that we don't have to
If not, it's going to be a very eye-opening experience.
It really will, yeah, pretty much. So be sure that you subscribe to the channel. I'm going to say that right off the bat because you do not want to miss a single episode of this because our character discussions are so fun. So, like I said, we're continuing with Skyelar today. And when you get into False Idols, we're just going to dive on in. The first time you see her is actually chapter 3. You don't even see her right at the beginning. So we learn that it's been a year since she ended things with Aezra very, very violently.
If you'd call it ended things, basically, just excise the cancer.
Right, right. What we like to do in these videos is go through each chapter where Skyelar is present. So we're not talking about every event that happened in book 2. We're just talking about the ones where she's present. So in chapter 3, it is aptly titled Changes because so much is different from the first book. And the main thing that's different is Skye and Eli have still had this nice little kindling relationship budding. It's they're still good, really good friends, but she is still very open with her flirtation, and she has no qualms in it. For example, the chapter 3, Eli is getting ready to go to church, and he told Skye that he would pick her up, which he has been doing for the last year or so, and he goes to her house, and of course, he's allowed inside. So, he's the only one besides Skye, of course. So he just walks in, he pulls the car up.
He rolls on in.
Yep, he rolls on in a new car, by the way. The last time that we saw him in a car, he was in a red Porsche, and now he is in a black and gold speckled Corvette. So he rolls up into her house, the flashy cars, something. So she's getting ready still, running late. She even makes a joke about it. She's like, sorry, I'm running late as always. And so he just makes himself at home because he's been coming to her place ever since the first book. And the way that they interact here, I feel is very oh my God, will you just get a room already?
Yeah,
because
they're basically beating around the bush, pun intended.
Yeah,
they'll
beat on the bush.
Yeah, one will sit there and joke and say something, then another one will respond back, and you see it's like a little dance.
Yeah.
Except there is literally a force field between both of them because they're dancing, but they're literally not getting closer.
Yeah, they can't break that barrier. And it's frustrating to Skyelar because she's not really the one putting the barrier up. We really get into their dynamic. Let's kind of talk about the physical changes that have been made just to Skyelar. So in a year's time, Skyelar, she dyed her hair because that's what women do. When we have a traumatic event or a bad breakup, first thing we do, we color our hair. I want to look totally different. I don't want to be that woman that he knew. So she dyed her hair. It is now black and purple. And it's very long, nice and like wavy, curly, whatever. And she is also noticeably decked out in tattoos. So if you'll recall from near the end of the first book, she discovered that Elias has the power when he receives a wound and it's going to scar, he has the power to convert it into something beautiful that he's proud to look at. Or not necessarily proud, that's a bad way to look at it. It's more tolerable for him to look at than just a scar.
Presentable.
Or presentable. He doesn't look like he's like a burn victim or something with all these scars. He can cover it, and it's an ancient form of magic. That's what he told Skyelar. It's an ancient form of magic that he knows, and he offered to teach it to her. And over this last year, we have physical evidence that Elias has kept to his word, which means a lot to Skyelar, given the last douchebag she was with, Aezra, couldn't hold his word, for nothing, because so the only word he could hold was, please let me change you. So she is noticeably different, painted with tattoos, arms, legs, places on her torso are covered very brightly. All the wolf scratches, the bites, the bruises from where her and Peyton would fight and just bruise each other. All of that is now covered in beautiful artwork that tells the story, instead of just being like scratch marks and stuff. So it's good to see that she was able to do that, although it is noted in there that the process of learning how to do that caused her to relive what happened when the wound was inflicted. So that's kind of that's a double-edged sword. You want to not have the bad remembrance of the scar anymore, but you still have to remember what happened to get it in order to have the pretty thing. So,
But that also goes, like, when she touched that blood and immediately had all the flashes.
Yeah, of watching Aezra.
So it may not necessarily just be her having to cut when she covers tattoos and stuff. It may just be something that is her magic.
It could be
that she's tapped into and not realize it, because that seems to be the only time that's happened up to when she was talking about how she was creating the tattoo.
And it is. So this is kind of a really developing, you're watching basically in real time, you're watching her magic develop. And especially now that she has the guidance of a mythic who knows what he's doing. Elias has been around forever, and so he's able to show her things. Maybe not all the things she wants to see, but he's able to show her some things that really helps her. And she's kind of become, I would say, more confident.
No, she's definitely become more confident, but in doing so, she's also become more arrogant.
You think so?
Yes, in some cases.
Okay.
The way she carries herself, like, even though she still cares a lot for Peyton. It don't take nothing for her to sit there and be like, look, I'm here. Everybody, all these people want to see a show. Okay, I'll give them a show. Watch this. And Peyton even responds, get out of my head. And she's just doing it she's doing it because
she can. Which that also kind of goes back to their sibling rivalry thing.
True.
Where she's always, that one of them's always poking at the other one, being like, and meanwhile they're going, Mom, Dad, she's touching me. And they're like, I don't care. Work it out. I'm sick of dealing with you girls. Work it out.
We can't build another house.
Yeah. In this chapter, it's a very, their interaction, I feel, Sky and Eli, is very quick, but it's meaningful.
It is meaningful. I mean, obviously there is a relationship there. It may not be a physical relationship, but there's a relationship there.
Yeah.
And if you were looking at it from the outside, you'd think, well, that's a happy couple.
Yeah. Elias is in her house waiting for her to come downstairs from getting ready. And of course, they are kind of matchy-matchy, where she's in a yellow dress and he's got on a yellow tie or a shirt or something, where he matches her, compliments her, which is really cute. And he goes and grabs her Bible from her little office because he knows she'll forget it. How many times has she probably done that? And
in a year?
In a year, yeah. And he grabs it because Noel actually gave her that Bible after breaking up with Aezra, because that was Noel's way of telling her, if you can't find comfort in anybody else, find comfort in God, because Noel is the pastor, so of course that's how he's going to do it. But she really treasures that Bible.
Yeah, I understand that.
So she takes it with her. But sometimes she'll forget. So Eli grabs it for her. She comes trotting down the stairs, being all cute, and she goes into the kitchen, grabs an apple, and says, I'll trade you an apple for the Bible. Or his response is, you really think I'm going to fall for literally the oldest trick in this book? The tempting with the apple. And she's like, oh no, it was worth a shot. So they've got that really cute banter, a flirtation back and forth, but yet nothing's happening. And it's, as the reader, it's a little frustrating, And I've said numerous times, this series is a slow burn. So we're not going to have Sky and Elias hook up immediately after she's available. But the first question that I have for this book is, in the year since Sky has been single, she's come on to him a lot, flirting with him clearly. So she's trying basically to get them to finish what they started in her bedroom a year ago. Why do you think Eli hasn't taken the bait? It's not.
Oh, he wants to take the bait.
Yeah, he
even explicitly says so, but it's something about, he's been down that road before and is worried about the fact that she doesn't understand what her power is.
Yeah.
And what she actually has. And he's afraid that if they get into a relationship, it's going to end badly. And one thing I can extrapolate from it is that basically the two powers come together, it's going to be a really bad explosion, and she's going to go completely loony and try to destroy the earth or something if they have sex.
So they leave together to go to church, and it's the first time you get to see pretty much the whole, everybody who attends the service. Mm-hmm. And you learn that, the church had to be remodeled because, of course, after Skyelar graced everybody with that show, they remodeled it, and more people wanted to come to church. Surprise, surprise. Everybody wants to see the train wreck. When they are in the church, Sky and Eli, they sit apart from everybody else. They do not sit. All of the family actually sits on the main lower floor, and they're in the first few rows, so that they're there to support Noel as he's preaching. But Sky, she loves
that wonderful mayor.
Yeah. Sky loves her father. We all know that. It's very clear. But she doesn't feel like she has to do that. Coming there is enough to show she supports him. So her and Eli sit separate, and they now sit in the mezzanine up top. So they sit there.
They can judge from up top.
Exactly. Exactly. So they sit there and they tend, because they're both mythics and they're both telepathic, can read into minds and stuff. So they sit up there and they kind of listen to the little whispers of people and kind of just get a little nebby and see what people are thinking. And, it's like their soap opera for the day.
Mm-hmm.
But Skyelar, so that's one of the things she even, like, introspects about that, where she's like, this whole thing that her and Eli are doing is kind of what makes humans so afraid of mythics, because you can't tell what they're gonna do, what they are doing, because it's all up here. Mm-hmm. It's all magic. Unlike a lichen, you can see hints of when they're about to change, so you can, like, back off or run for cover. But with a mythic, you have no idea.
And that's what's so awesome about it.
Exactly. But humans don't think that, of course.
No.
And Skyelar even thinks to herself, I wish I wasn't so guilty of doing this all the time. Because, it's a scary thing for humans, and it's not right for me to abuse my power that way. But then she's like, magic gets the best of us all. So, and Skyelar, even when she's up there just thinking to herself, because, she can reflect on the past year of her life and stuff. So she can think to herself where it's like, I've had it so rough, and I've had to change a lot because people have forced me to. But the one person that has never asked her to change anything was Elias. She voluntarily changed things for him. Mm-hmm. Because she cares that much about him. And that's really important for her.
And that character. Is interesting that she changed for him, mm-hmm. even though he never asked mm-hmm. at all. Versus the ex that was, you do this, you do this.
You must change for me.
I am a great guy.
Yeah. While they are just having their little, like, spying on everybody moment, what Superman was talking about before was Noel, when he is up on that podium, he gets very impassioned. And he's like, I want everybody to be tolerant of their neighbor. And you know what? I want to show how easy it is for humans and creatures to come together. So can I get my family, my blended family, to come up on this stage? When Skye hears that, whenever Nola's like, I want my family, come on down so that we can show how good it is to be a blended creature family. Skye's like, canceled. She's like, I gotta get out of this because I am not. Going back to your point from the other video, Skye wants to just blend in and be normal. And her version of normal is being a happy creature in a happy relationship, mm-hmm. not having anybody, like, get onto her or blame her for shit. And, like, not look at her as if she's in the spotlight. You know what I mean? So whenever that happens and Nola's like, come on down, she's like, canceled. That's too much for me. And she sets a small fire in the church.
But the funny part is really, if you look at Skye's thinking, she really doesn't look at creatures, humans. Mm-hmm. She looks at them as everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's her utopia.
And
is that the creatures and humans are basically all the same.
Yeah.
And that they coexist, no problems.
And that's normal to her.
Yes.
Like, when Skye starts that little fire, of course, it's totally controlled. She even, it says in the book, she is totally in control the whole time. But she starts the fire alarms go off, they have everybody's evacuated, the fire department has to come, like, it's a whole thing. But she kind of was just like, I just didn't really want to go up on that stage, like, and so, of course, in the next chapter, because these two chapters are very together, in the next chapter, outside of the church, while the fire department's going in to make sure it's all good, people start talking, and like they do, and they're like, I bet it was Skyelar Jericho. She, and of course the loudest talker is James. Elias makes a joke to her when they're all evacuated outside, and he's like, why can't we ever make it to the end of a service? For once, I'd like to hear the closing prayer. And so she kind of teases him about it, and she's like, well, I guess you'll have to come here on a Sunday without me then, because if he keeps doing that, and Eli's like, well, that's my only option that I'm good without. You know, one of the, like, just a nice little reassurance to her that even though they haven't crossed that imaginary line, he still cares. And he still wants her around. And to her, that means a lot.
Yeah, that means a lot.
You know, she hasn't had a lot of people genuinely want her around. Her father does, but it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, of course my dad does. I love my dad. He loves me. That's fine. But that's different. That's a different kind of want to have you around.
Yes.
You know, this is, you know, even Peyton half the time doesn't want Skyelar around. So Aezra only wanted Sky around so that he could feed off of her. I mean, that's just, it's her whole life has been...
for the most part, her entire life has been around users.
Yes. And Elias is the first person that has been in her life that's like, I want you around because I want you around.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy your company. I like teaching you magic. I think you're beautiful. I like looking at you, so that's helpful. They are just kind of like hanging out and whatever outside of the church, and the fire department's in, and Sky and Eli are just chilling, and Sky's teasing him like, I promise I'll behave next week and all that stuff. And then they slip into focus, which she has now regained control of. Where in the last book, she could do it, but she didn't feel like she could do it as well as she used to. And it's just the two of them in this little bubble, and they're able to flirt and have fun. And he even... and it's a really neat thing to note here, and we'll go more into detail on it in Elias's videos, but Elias cannot do focus.
Mm-hmm.
That is something Skyelar has over him.
But he can use his power to sit there and help maintain.
Yes.
He can initiate it.
Correct.
But once he's in there, he can make it a lot more solid.
Yeah.
If it's
they can bounce off of each other. Yeah. And that's the beauty of mythics, because remember, magic is fluid. You're going to hear that all the time. And so they're able to kind of transfer that power between them to help something work out better, which you will see a really good example of later on in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, they were alone in their little focus bubble, and of course they start to like feel the intimacy pulling them closer. And he like touches her cheek, and she like nuzzles into him, and it's like this sweet moment, and you're like, kiss, kiss, kiss. And then you hear James outside of the bubble because he's throwing a fucking fit. And
yeah, he's an old man that really should have been retired several years before.
Seriously, he's in his like mid to late 60s. So it's like, dude, what the hell? So, and all you hear is James. The line is, what I don't understand, Noel, is how you can be so blind to this cancer. And that wakes Sky and Eli up, because Sky's like, yep, he's talking about me.
And the funniest thing is I always laugh when that part comes out, because that line is just so straight politician.
Oh, yeah.
And it's almost like with Sky, I mean, she can sit there and start a little fire, that you wouldn't just see her like look right over and just go,
mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, like you'd see his pant legs like catch fire. Or something, you know, something to really say, look, I'm having fun here.
Yeah.
But don't press me. So if you think you can take me, come on, big boy. Let's see what you've got in that back pocket that is so dangerous to me.
And you know the only thing stopping her from doing that is her father.
Yeah, but at some point, I mean, even he's coming out of his shell.
Yeah. Oh, and it's more so as things go on, because we really entered the Jericho's lives at such a pivotal point where we are seeing how we're getting a glimpse of how things used to be and what the routine has always been. And now we're seeing some people getting sick of it.
Yeah.
And they're like, this has been going on for far too long. Noel's one of them, and Sky's one of them. And Elias has been around now that a year has passed after the first book. It's been 4 years that he's been around, and he has seen enough of it from day one. Because he cares that much about Skyelar that he's like, why do they treat you this way? So she, of course, they hear all that. Noel and James bicker about, because Noel will always defend Skyelar. So Skyelar does have enough of hearing, because she stays back. She lets Elias take control because she trusts him. Like I said, she implicitly trusts him. So she lets him kind of go and take control. But whenever she's like, all right, James is being too much of a dick, she steps in and is like, what the hell? Because Cordelia jumps in on it, like literally everybody. Because then they start attacking Noel for always defending her. So Skylar's like, what the hell, man? Why am I always the one to blame? She points to Chloe Jo and is like, her father is a fucking zombie, and y'all don't say shit to her. Why am I catching all the flack? Chloe Jo, of course, takes offense to Skyelar being like, what about her? And Sky's like, seriously? Like, why are you surprise Pikachuing right now? You know what your dad is. You know that this is a problem, and he needs help. And she's like, well, I am trying to help him. You back off. So everybody starts playing the gang up on Skyelar game again. And Peyton, of course, has to interject. Now, it is worth noting, since we're not solely focusing on Peyton, you don't really get this talking about Skyelar, but this is the night of the full moon. Like, this is the day of a full moon. So Peyton is on edge. She's on edge more than normal. All Lycans get a little angsty the day before, of, and after a full moon. That's why there's that 3-day law, the full moon law, because they know how Lycans are. So Peyton is already angsty. You got Skyelar saying all this and upsetting, well, she's not intending to upset people, but she's upsetting people. And of course, Peyton is on their side. So she chimes in with, oh, just shut up, Skyelar. And, you know, talking about how she's trying to always kill people. And that puts her, this, you know, she's got a higher body count than what Jared could ever have. And Sky's like, seriously? Like, why? Why? You're my sister. Why are you going to do that to me? Like, why? What happened here? So they start to kind of bicker a little bit. Sky and Peyton, that is. Wesley, Peyton's boyfriend, he holds back Peyton from trying to charge on Skyelar because he knows how she is right now. And Eli tries to hold Sky back and is like,
I mean, it's like literally, it's like all the dudes are like sitting there, okay, chickadees, let's calm down before something really bad happens. We're going to have a cat fight of cat fights here in a minute.
Oh, yeah. Noel, being ever the, I guess, referee, we'll call him, he just kind of has had enough of the bickering, especially between his daughters. He's tired of being blamed, so he's like, family, I think we could use a prayer right now. What do you say?
And they're like, no.
But he forces them because he's like, I need y'all to find Jesus again. Because y'all are really fucking things up, all right? So let's make a call on Jesus and just remind ourselves who we are. And of course, while now I do have them strategically lined up. Whenever they're holding hands, because he wants the family, not like strangers, just the family, to gather in a circle, and they all hold hands, and, you know, so I have them strategically paired. So, Skyelar is between Noel and Eli, which really says a lot.
Yeah, that's her, basically her bookends of strength.
Yep, it is, and that's where I would argue, and I mean, you can tell me if you disagree, that those two men being right there by her, that's where she feels the most safe, the most confident, and all of her power stems from being able to say that they care for her.
Yeah.
So she's standing between them, and across just a few down around from Noel, Cordelia is between Noel and Peyton. And so Skyelar kind of cheats during the prayer. I always call it cheating when you open your eyes during a prayer. She cheats and peeks up at Peyton to watch her. And Skylar's like, that bitch thinks that she can fucking come in here and not defend me, her own sister, after I spend my life defending her. So you know what? I'm going to show her a thing or two. So Sky sends a little electric shock down the hand. You know, whenever you're like holding hands and someone tases the first person, you get it? That's what she does, but she sends it to Peyton and it stops with Peyton. And Peyton, of course, is like, what the fuck, Skyelar? You know, that's part of their sister dynamic.
Don't you just love that, you know, saying great words like that on church property?
Oh, yeah. Right outside with the pastor right there. You know, who cares? And she even asked her, why are you always doing shit like this? And, of course, Noel, again, tries to be the referee, and Sky is just like, listen, you deserved it. Like... And whenever they're standing there, and Peyton, this is a really important dynamic moment for Peyton and Sky. When they're standing there trying to come at each other, Skyelar decides, I'm going to get inside your head, and I'm going to show you something that's going to hurt you because you're hurting me. And so she gets in there, and she finds some memories that Peyton has tried to bury, and Sky realizes these are human memories. Then she purposefully, she even acknowledges she is purposefully finding something that will hurt Peyton and make her feel the way she makes Skyelar feel. And when she does, Peyton just screams in tears.
I mean, just falls apart.
She is just falling apart. Wesley's like, the fuck? Like, what is happening right now? So he's trying to take her away, and Eli leans in and tries to be like, okay, you've made your point. Let's go.
You've already crushed her.
Let's go while you still have a head attached to your body. Like, let's do this. And he even says, the town already exiled you. Don't make your family follow suit. And he says that out loud. Well, Sky and Eli, over the course of this last year, have developed more than just the telepathy. They've gotten to where they can actually speak to each other from in their minds, and no one knows it. No one can know what they're saying. Yep. So he says that part out loud, and I call it whispering in their minds. So then she whispers into his mind that some of them already have. Yeah. And that
is very telling. Yes. Cordelia, James. I mean, they're...
Sometimes Peyton. Well, Eli finally convinces Sky to tone it down and puts an arm around her, takes her back to the car. They get in the car, they start to drive away, and as they're like holding hands and stuff, and they actually, when they're holding hands, he lifts her hand up to his lips and kisses her knuckles. And that's a really, like, it's one of those, oh my God, that's so sweet, but it's also, just fucking get it over with moments. Like, clearly you want to. Quit doing this shit. So.
I think it's hilarious that the author of the story is sitting there saying that. It's like, I can understand if we were, like, on the sideline sitting there going, man, the sexual tension in this is just ridiculous.
But when I'm saying it, you know it's bad. And I'm the one controlling when they can and can't. Really cute thing about the ending of the 5th chapter is their really quick conversation on their way back home. When Sky is just like, well, at least you finally got to hear the closing prayer. Was it everything you hoped? And Elias is like, you know, if I knew God was in a giving mood, I would have asked for something more precious.
Oh.
And I think that is a really telling line about Elias. And what do you think? Do you think that shows Skyelar a little bit more of just a hint of more effort on his part.
Oh, yeah. But at the same time, she's kind of trying to figure out what's his definition of precious.
Exactly. So the next time, after the church services, the next time we see Sky and Eli is actually not until chapter 10. Mm-hmm. So 5 whole chapters pass, and you said a really good thing before we started recording, and I think that's something the readers should be privy to. False idols, even though Skyelar is, by and large, our main protagonist, our main heroine, and Elias is our main hero, False Idols is really a very Peyton-focused book, because I'm trying to get you, familiar with her. She didn't have a lot in the first book, because I wanted you to meet Skyelar.
She drank most of it.
Yeah. I wanted you to really meet Skyelar and see who she is. And now in this one, we know more about Skyelar, and she's in sort of a safe space, so we can focus on someone else for a minute. And so even though Skyelar has a lot of really good character development moments, this is really a Peyton book. Mm-hmm. You really see in this one a good dynamic of how Sky likes to help Peyton. Yeah. And you see the genuine, even though Sky is mad at her right now because Peyton, was being a bitch after church, and Sky's all right, fine.
If you go back to book 1, she got basically put in a corner. Yeah. And nobody had her back. Yeah. When Aezra sit there, slammed her up against the wall, Ava jumped in.
But Peyton didn't.
Peyton's like, Emma.
And Sky holds on to that stuff because she's like, I keep saying it, and I know it sounds repetitive, but it's very important to Sky's character. She keeps saving Peyton, but Peyton doesn't do the same for her. So it's kind of a one-way street to this point. Yeah. It's a one-way street, and Sky is frustrated.
And it's a long street.
Yeah, too. Yeah. I mean, and she's frustrated, understandably so. So now that she's got this little slice of almost like a piece of heaven right there on Earth, she's like, I don't want anything to fuck this up. So Sky, when chapter 10 opens, Sky is just casually, she changed out of her church clothes. She's wearing a little tank top and some shorts, walking around barefoot. Elias is in the kitchen making them dinner. This is a huge thing for her. She finally has what she feels is a good, normal life. He kind of just reflects on her journey over the last year. Because there is a moment when she's all alone, and she's just kind of talking about, Aezra is really careless and wild, but there's more to him than that.
Careless and wild.
That's how she describes him.
No.
Yeah. So the reason she's reflecting on him is because she's thinking about, Skyelar has in her house, like I talked about in the Falshook Mountain history video, she has a bunch of different creature DNA samples that she studies and tries to do experiments on to see what would happen if certain species mixed. Well, one of the creatures that she has is Aezra. He has always wanted her to see what would happen if her and him mixed genetics, and she refused. Well, she's been thinking to herself over the last year, maybe she should finally see. But today, she's like, nope, don't care, don't want to know, not going to worry about it. Going to move on to something else. So that's why she's reflecting on Aezra. And she's talking about the night she ended things. This is a really good, refreshing thought for her. The night she ended things with Aezra was the night she woke up. And she really, because we talked in the last video about how she was so cloudy-minded. Mm-hmm. And she slowly,
only when she was around it.
Yeah. But then as she slowly started to regain her own and realizing what was happening, and now that she's mostly free of him, she's got more clarity, and she feels like she's really coming into her own. And she says she no longer wants anything to do with Aezra. So if she tries to make some kind of combative cure, where the conquistadors are trying to cure creatures and she's trying to find a cure for that.
Yeah.
She's like, well, cure can't rely on anything to do with Aezra, because in the past she thought he was her best bet for a cure against the conquistadors.
Mm-hmm.
But now she's like, fuck that. So her only hope is Elias, she feels, because he's the only blood sample that she doesn't have.
Yeah.
And it's because he won't give it to her. But the thing is, because she cares so deeply for Elias,
she won't ask.
She's not going to ask. She's not going to, like, she asked, the reason she knows he won't give it to her is because she asked once. Once was all she needed. She's not going to press the issue. Mm-hmm. She's not Aezra. She's not going to keep on, hey, so, now that she's kind of trying to figure out another route to go, that's when Peyton's massive wolf paw just goes on the door. Hey. And she's like, oh my God, what the fuck? When she opens the door, she instantly goes into protector mode. Mm-hmm. Because there her sister is, laying out. She's half changed. She's not even fully changed. And it's a really
it was weird.
Awkward
yeah,
change.
It's like different parts of her were like partially wolf form, and it was like she was coming back from being a wolf, going back to human, and it didn't want to fully.
So what happened is she changed into a wolf to get to Skyelar.
Yeah.
And now that she got there, she wanted to change back, but her wolf wouldn't let her. So the two are fighting. The human and the wolf are fighting over who needs to be in control. And an important thing to note about Lycans, which of course we'll get more into when we talk about Lycans, but when they're injured, their beast can handle it better than their human, because the beast is more immune and well equipped, and it has that. The human has the regenerative properties too. Like if Peyton got cut as a human, her skin would heal. She doesn't have to turn into a wolf to heal. But if she's severely injured...
Yeah, I was going to say, like, severely...
Like a disease or an infection, her wolf is going to be like, you can't handle this, I'm taking over. And her human's going to fight it, because we know how Peyton feels about that dynamic that she has within herself. So Skyelar sees her sister laid out on the floor in this really disturbing, awkward half change, and she doesn't, because she's unconscious, Skyelar doesn't want to risk physically touching her and moving her.
Yeah.
So she uses her magic and just puts her on like a cart that she has, and is like, okay, that way I can keep her stable and flat, and I'll just roll her in and she'll be fine. Let me see what's going on. So she ends up taking a blood sample and looking at it under the microscope while Peyton's still knocked out, because this whole time Peyton's unconscious. Whatever is in her has got her. And so Skyelar's examining it really quickly, and she sees this little thing on Peyton's chromosomes, because magic works faster. You have to check your brain at the door here, because magic works faster than like logic is what I is science. It works faster than science.
I love that.
She can, with the, just with the thought of her head, she's like, I need to see Peyton's chromosome. She doesn't have to go through all the stuff to shake the chromosomes out or do whatever she needs to do in the lab. She can just pull the chromosome from the blood and look at it under the microscope. So she sees on Peyton's chromosomes, there's something attacking her from the inside. Mm-hmm. And it's not normal. So she instantly is like, oh my God, because she sees it kind of regenerating really fast. And she's like, all right, I got to get this shit out of her. So she's like, I don't know what to do. I guess the best thing to do is almost like a dialysis, where she's
filtering her blood.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what a dialysis does, where she's like, she cuts open her wrists and Skyelar cuts open Peyton's wrists and ankles, even in their awkward, weird, half wolf, half human state, and she punctures a little hole in a vein and starts to painstakingly pull the blood out in a ribbon. And it's like a really, like, you really have to picture this. Skyelar is standing over Peyton with this arch of blood just in the air. And she's going through it and finding the little pieces that don't belong. And she's pulling them out and sending them to a little jar and putting the blood, the clean blood, back into her sister. This is the length she will go to keep. I mean, you're Peyton trying to safe.
Picture. I mean, she's not even using tubes or anything. No. She's literally just pulling it out like almost like it's freezing time.
And it's freehand, all magic, and she is just going through and filtering the blood, and it's taking for fucking ever. So all of a sudden, Elias comes in because he's just, he's like, "Oh, here's some wine for you." What the hell? So he
comes in. Hey, what's going on here?
Yeah, he does. He literally he notices Peyton laying on a rolling platform under a blanket, and he's like, "What happened?" And Skye kind of is just like, I don't know. She just showed up like this. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with her. And so Elias starts to help her because, like we said before, they can bounce their magic off of each other and they can get it done faster because the longer Skyelar takes, the more she's worried that Peyton's going to die.
And see, I think that's right there, just absolutely nailed why Elias has not pursued a physical relationship, because their power is so in sync with each other that those two get together. I mean, his fear is justified. But that being said, there's still no excuse. But I love the fact how they can sit there and combine, even though he can't do focus. Yeah. And there's certain things he can't do that she does naturally. I'm sure it's vice versa, too. Oh, yeah. He's got a lot of stuff, but his is more, he developed over, several thousand years.
Because he's been around forever. We don't know how long.
He just hides it well.
Yeah. After they finally get all the blood filtered through, because with Elias's help, they're able to do it a lot quicker, Skye takes a minute to really examine and see what the fuck this is. Now that she has it completely separated, she can really look at it and see what it is. And she can't figure it out. She's never seen it before. Or she thinks she has, but she can't quite put her finger on it.
Yeah.
It's like the description of what this thing is. It's the foreign entity in Peyton's blood. And the description is that it's twisted and distorted, almost like a feral creature. Yet Peyton was not feral. Because her cells, if she was feral, her normal cells would have been mutating a lot faster. And this was not doing that to her. So that's why Skyelar's confused. Because she's like, this looks familiar, but I don't really know what it is. What do we think it is?
Oh my God.
Oh.
Something just dawned on me.
Oh.
It's her interaction with another creature.
It is.
It's her interaction with another creature that's been modified by the conquistadors. And didn't even realize it.
So Skyelar is really confused. She's like, what can lay out a lichen like this? Because lichens are so strong and their immunity is so powerful that because they just, whenever they're in their beast form, they just eat everything. So they have to have a good immune system. And so Skylar's really confused because she's like, what can do this to a lichen? This is
somebody insane. Genetically modified.
And so she kind of just puts that on the back burner for a minute. She, as we talked about in the first video, Skyelar is very in tune with nature in terms of her magic. So when she tries to help heal people from sicknesses or wounds or whatever, she relies heavily on herbs and flowers and stuff instead of just magic.
Yeah.
Because she's very I know what these plants can do because when I was at my weakest, when I was at my weakest with my magic, this was all I had.
Yeah.
And so she really knows the ins and outs of what plants do what. And she can then use her magic to just, if she needs one and doesn't have it in her garden, she can just make it appear, and there it is. So she puts together a little concoction that will help heal Peyton. And of course, Peyton wakes up and is like, she's like, the fuck just happened to me? Like,
I don't even remember.
Yeah. So, and it also, when Peyton wakes up, she's very startled at seeing Elias come from inside Skyelar's house, because Peyton's never been invited in there. So she sees that happen, and she's like, I'm sorry, what? Skyelar's like, listen, there was something inside you, killing you. Like, you should be thanking me, bitch. You were rude to me earlier, but you're welcome, I guess. And so Peyton is like, well, I'm in total control. Because that's the lie that she likes to tell herself.
That's what she always sits there. That's her fallback. It doesn't matter. Everything, I'm in control. And literally everything around her is exploding.
Yeah. Yeah. And Skyelar's like, all right, sure, whatever you say. It's like, so when Peyton sees Elias coming in and out of the house, she really, her attention and her thought process, it goes from, oh my God, something was sick, something was in me trying to kill me, to, hold up. You're letting Elias in there, this motherfucker that I don't even like and that I don't think you should either, but you wouldn't let your own fiance in there? And
so, yeah, bringing that up.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing that up of all things.
So they kind of bicker as they normally do, because Skyelar's like, why the fuck would you bring that up? Like, I don't want anything to do with him. Stop doing this. Stop making him, like, stop letting that shadow linger in my life. I'm trying to move on from. And of course, you know, she's like, Peyton's like, I can't help but wonder how different things would have been if you let him change you. And she's like, Skyelar's like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
No,
like,
she doesn't.
You need, and she doesn't. Skyelar
you
knows.
Need Jesus.
Yeah. Skyelar knows because she lived it. You know what I mean? And so then, of course, Elias comes out to help, like, break some of the tension. He's like, oh, I'm glad to see you survived. And Peyton's just like, fuck off. Fuck all the way off. Like, I can't even with you. And Elias even invites her to stay for dinner. And Peyton's like, nope, doubly fuck off. Because I am not eating anything you cooked, motherfucker. She, like, storms out. She turns back into her beast and runs away. And Elias is left looking at Skyelar and goes, a simple no would have been fine. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't have to be so rude.
And so overly dramatic.
Yeah. Like, so we go to chapter 12, where Skyelar and Elias are in her dining room having dinner. And Skyelar is really worried, because she doesn't like not knowing what that thing was that was plaguing her sister. So she's really worried about it, and Elias can tell. And they have another cute, I said in the first book how they have a lot of really cute, quiet moments. And this chapter is an example of one of those, because they sit at the dinner table. She's lost in her thoughts. He's lost in his. You know, while they're sitting there together, she's not really eating her food. She's, like, playing with it. And, you know,
she's like a million miles away.
She is. And a good question here is, if she was able to extract that from Peyton, shouldn't that be enough? She did her job. Can she not just go back to her happy little bubble that she was in?
No, because it's a threat to not only her sister, but also creature kind in general. Because who's to say, okay, it just made Peyton sick, so it made Lycan sick. What could it do to the merfolk or the bear lichens and stuff, like, you know, the different variations of creatures.
Or Skye and Eli are eating, and he kind of playfully, lifts the spoon up to try to make her eat, and, just to make her smile and get out of that, because like you said, she's a million miles away. So just to kind of get her out of that. And so then she just kind of is like, well, I don't know, should I tell anybody about this, new thing that I found? And Eli's like, nah, don't do that. You need the advantage. If they see this on their own, it's going to take them a long time to figure out what it is. But you already know, at least have an inkling of stuff. So just keep that to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And as they start talking, Elias is trying to be the voice of reason, but Skyelar's just monomaniacal about it, because he's like, please don't let this consume you, because one thing you'll notice about Skye and Eli from this point on is they're always trying to, between each other, bounce back into this nice, comfortable rhythm that they had. They'll have these little, spurts.
They'll get moments
where it's perfect and everything is normal and they can just breathe, and then something happens and Skyelar gets consumed by it, or Elias gets, depending on who it impacts most. And the other one is there to go, please, let's just go back to the way it was. To the way it was before this happened.
You can't do that. You can't even do that in life.
Yeah, and so they're they're trying to figure out how to recapture. It's like lightning in a bottle. They're trying to figure out how to keep getting those little moments.
I mean, there is a way to catch lightning in a bottle, but it's all superficial.
Yeah. So then Elias kind of lets Skyelar know that he has a meeting that night. He has to dine and dash, basically. And he has to go to the Devil's Fountain because he is meeting Uncle Rhaegal. And Skyelar is really uneasy about this because she reminds him, you know how manipulative my family is. You know that their sole focus, she's like, I don't care that you're talking to Uncle Rhaegal, because Uncle Rhaegal does not believe in the conquistador cause.
Yeah.
But Skyelar doesn't care. She doesn't want him getting involved with anything with the Jerichos, because her...
Actually doesn't want to get anything involved in Murlance or Murr County.
Yeah, because Skylar's fear is that if he starts getting involved with the Jericho drama, yep, that's exactly it. He's going to be swept away by it, and she's never going to see him again. And he's going to be, completely, transformed into this power-hungry monster. But Elias tries to reassure her, that's not going to happen. And so Skye says yet another kind of revealing line where she's like, there are people who need you more than that bar does, and more than Rhaegal does. There's someone that needs you more than that. And he's like, all right, well, I'm trying, Skye. I'm really trying. Mm-hmm. And that sort of from book 2, for quite a few books, that's kind of his motif. It's, I know you want this from me, and I'm trying. I can only go so far.
But nobody else will step up and actually do anything, so I'll have to do it.
Yeah. And every time she wants him to, take a step forward with her, he's like, I can take a half step. I can't take the whole step. I'm trying. So that's something you're going to hear from him a lot.
Do or do not. There is no try. You say, I'm trying, that means you're failing.
And so she even is like, if you really want to try, you can hire a manager for the bar. For the bar in the club. That would help out a lot. And he's laughing because he knows what happens in the next book. But so Elias is like, I am trying, and I
am working on it. I promise.
One thing at a time. So Elias goes to the meeting, and Skye is left at her house.
And just stay put. Don't go anywhere. That's where trouble starts.
Exactly. So.
Oh God! Don't tell me it's another half meeting.
And so, the next time we see Skyelar, she is alone in her house, of course. But it's chapter 16, and a certain someone has returned. We haven't seen or heard a whole lot from him the whole book, but we can't. Aezra's back. I can't sugarcoat it any other way. Aezra's back. And this time,
about that chapter.
So Aezra was at Creature Comforts, which is the underground creature bar or creature club in the Devil's Fountain. And he was with Peyton. Aezra has done nothing but drink blood since Skyelar broke up with him. And the important thing to note here, the reason why we're kind of talking about Aezra more than Skyelar for a second, is because when a sanguise goes on like a blood drinking binge, they basically get drunk. It's like if you consumed nothing but straight up alcohol for like a week. You're on a bender and you're like super drunk. That's how he is. He's really drunk on the rush that the blood gives to him. And he decides that he's going to try to find Skyelar.
Of course.
Because it's been a year.
Oh, I got one of the sisters, so let's go for the other one.
Yeah. It's been a year and he's like, she changed the path that you can take to get to her house so that he does not know how to get there anymore. But he's like, damn it, I'm going to fucking try. So he gets in his stupid little Dodge Charger and drives down to her house where he remembered the entrance being. And even though it's not there anymore, he's like, fuck it, I'm going. And so he goes. Meanwhile, Skyelar is in her house. She's up in her room just studying over some books in her little pajamas and everything. Her and Ava actually had just gotten back from. Skyelar is helping Ava build a house.
Yeah.
Up in the mountain. Not down where Skyelar lives, more in the mountain area.
So she can actually stay more in her beast form.
Exactly.
And be away from people.
Exactly. So Skylar's helping Ava do that, and because it's so late when they got done, Ava is staying the night at Skylar's house instead of driving all the way back into Merlance to the condos where she lives, which is the same building as Aezra. And Kaylee and Sebastian actually live in there too. So a lot of people live in Freedom Park. So Aezra is trying to drive to Skylar's house. Skylar ends up, she can feel when people cross the border, and especially when they're not wanted. And she ignores that most of the time because she's like, my magic is going to do what it needs to do. And they'll either turn around and leave or they'll die. Whatever. So, but when Aezra, he makes it to her house somehow. And when he pulls up and starts banging on the door, he is the quintessential drunken ex-boyfriend where he's banging on the door going, Sky, please let me in. Sky, please. I need to see you. I need you. I miss you.
This is right here. This is what you should have done. Pulled out the stake. Right there. Oh, gotta cut the head off. There you go.
Yeah.
And just ended it right there.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody kind of feels that sentiment because they're like, fuck, Aezra, really?
How did he get, the thing that still blows my mind is how the hell, and you know what? The more you think about it, it's that lingering nugget that's still stuck in Sky's brain.
Yeah.
That allowed him to sit there and basically bullshit his way up to the house. He couldn't get in to the house proper.
Well, and granted, by the time he got to the house, he was hurting. Because, not just because he was drunk, but because the pressure of her magic was still like, you're not wanted. Go away.
Oh, I can't.
Yeah. And of course, Ava is because Ava's not allowed in the house, so Ava's sleeping on the pull-out couch, and she's the first to hear Aezra, so she immediately changes into her panther, that's her lichen beast, and is like, get the fuck out of here, you piece of shit, nobody wants you here. And Skyelar hears Ava, and is prompted to come down, and that's when she hears Aezra making his pleas and being like, I want to come in. So Skyelar's
pathetic.
Yes, pathetic is the best way.
Mm-hmm.
Skyelar's like, go away willingly or I will force you to go. So it seems like she's still, at this point, sticking to her guns and being like, I don't want anything to do with you. He's making that face because of what comes instantly next. Because Skyelar does, even when Ava's like, do not entertain that asshole. Skylar's like, well, just stay on high alert, all right?
No.
Just let me do this real quick.
No.
So she says she ends up letting him in to the house. Her deal with him is, I'll let you in for this night only if you let me draw some blood samples. So why she kind of in her introspection as she's listening to Aezra whine and thinking about letting him inside, she kind of goes into a little bit of detail about why she's choosing to let him in and wants his blood, and it's because she trashed all his other blood. So she's thinking, well, now that I've got this new thing, I think I kind of do need it. But do you think that's really why she let him in? Or do you think...
No, it was a twofold reason. One, she could get a fresh sample.
Yeah.
Because there's no telling how long she'd been holding on to those old samples. Yeah. And two, it's an excuse to get him back in.
You think she wants him back in?
There's a nugget that's up in her brain somewhere that, still has feelings.
History, man. You think that part of Skyelar, it could be, do you think it could be that she kind of wants to, have that physical connection
Actually,
again?
It is. It's, okay, I like where I'm at with Elias, but we're missing some stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm getting frustrated. Let me hold this in the back pocket for... Basically, she was going to use him...
for a rainy day.
Yeah, she was using him for a booty call.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that comes across.
And after everything, and the fact that he never satisfied her...
Yeah.
Why?
But he at least kind of, there was something.
Okay, breaking the plane is not the same thing.
I know. But, so do you also think, because this is really dangerous for her.
Oh, yeah.
She can easily fall back in. So do you think any part of her is worried about falling back into it?
Oh, yeah.
And
very much.
Do you think she's susceptible to it again?
Yeah.
Easily, or is he really going to have to work for it?
He's going to have to work for it, but she's still susceptible. She's always been susceptible, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's something Elias never bothered to really look into, because he figured after she basically slammed everything under the sun onto him, okay, I'm good. I don't need to worry about it.
Yeah.
But she should have...
She should worry about it.
She should have worried about it, but actually... he should have worried about it more.
Yeah. And do you think, because now this is something a little later down, but Elias doesn't know that this is happening, and she doesn't tell him.
No.
There's nowhere in these books where she tells him that she let Aezra back in.
But funny story though is I got a feeling he knew.
Oh, I'm sure, because he can read it in her if he really wants to.
Yeah, so just like sometimes she can read what he's doing. I mean, it's not like she's sitting there trying to find out his thoughts.
Yeah. While
he's going through this meeting or anything like that. But for the most part, yeah, I think he knew. He was like, okay, he's drawing blood. Maybe something that potentially she would need.
Right.
So he probably tried to take it at face value and said, look, she's a big girl. She can take care of herself.
I've taught her well.
Yeah, well, he's taught her, but that's about it.
Yeah.
But it's even with history, that doesn't make up for a fact. If you a douchebag's a douchebag. Nothing's gonna change.
For sure. And so she even comments, because Aezra keeps on with his, I need you. Meanwhile, Ava is like, I mean, the fangs are out. Because she's like, you fucking make one wrong, you blink funny. And I'm going to rip you to shreds. And of course, he has that, like, I can't be killed kind of attitude. But Skyelar just looks at him point blank and is like, you're drunk. And he's like, yeah, but I'm not too drunk to stay with you. Which is just cringy as all fuck. And luckily, Skyelar does not take the bait.
Ooh,
she even goes so far as to talk about Elias while she's drawing blood from Aezra.
And the fact he's like sitting there just absolutely, fuming.
Because she's like, she actually just, when she's taking the blood from Aezra, she pretends like he's not even there. And she's talking to Ava and it's just like, I really wish that he would not run that club. Someone's going to get hurt one day. And Ava tries to tell her, no, Eli's a good man. He's got it all under control. I go there. You should come. You might like it. What is stopping Skyelar now that she's free and can be with Elias would go with her.
Yeah.
So what is stopping her from kind of going down there to see for herself what's going on?
It's not really anything that she really wants. It's like on her radar.
Yeah.
That's why.
Like, she has her own sanctuary, so why does she need that one?
Yeah, she doesn't need to go there.
Yeah. Ava actually makes it a point to tell Aezra, Elias is allowed inside her house. And Ezra's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I know I'm drunk, but what?
Yeah, like his head explodes.
Yes. And Skyelar doesn't deny it because it's true. And why should she care? Why does it matter? In her mind, she's like, I don't care that you know. Fuck off. Like, you're not that special anymore. But
you weren't special to begin with.
Yeah. But Aezra now kind of changes tactics with her. Instead of being like how he was, where he's like, come on, I love you. He kind of starts to shift his tactic and is like you said, don't believe what Elias says. He
said, yeah, but pieces of shit like that say that all the time.
Yeah.
Now, granted, we know Elias does have skeletons in his closet, but having some POS like that sit there and keep saying, "Oh, don't listen to what he said," just because his pride's hurt.
Yeah.
Because Elias can actually go into the house.
Yeah.
Where he never could. He couldn't even sniff getting inside that door.
Yep.
And so that his pride, that narcissism just can't handle that. So he's going to come up with any bullshit tactic he can think of.
Yeah. And that is his new, because one thing about him, and I think it's fair to say with a lot of people with that similar personality, when things aren't going the way that they're used to them going, they're quick at trying to change the tactic.
They're sometimes they literally cannot, they shut down.
Yeah.
They can't, if they're not getting their way, they sit there, they do try to change tactics and become even more pathetic than they already were. Or they have coronary.
Yeah.
They mentally shut down, emotionally go off the Richter scale.
Yeah.
And physically, you could just tell that the body's about to shut down on them because they cannot process that if they can't have their way, life goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. And Aezra not only switches tactics to try to get Skyelar to feel bad, where he's like, don't believe him, he's not who he says he is. Like, Skylar's like, she won't take the bait. She's like, because Aezra's like, he's hiding things, and she's like, yeah, I am too, we all are. Like, who gives a fuck? And in other news, the sun came out today. Like, it's not that big a deal to her that he's hiding things. And Aezra, realizing, I think, that that's not working, switches tactics again.
Or tries
to. And this time he tries for the physical, because that always worked with her in the past. So while she's sitting next to him, he's laid out on the pull-out couch. She's sitting next to him, packaging everything she's gotten, and he slowly starts to put his hand up her thigh. And she kind of lets it happen for a minute.
Again, that kind of lets crap.
Yep, that's what it is. She kind of lets it happen, and she's like, you almost wanted her to sit there and, have one of those needles, and then when he started doing that, just went boom right there. Yeah. But the thing is, you get a little bit of insight here into her thinking about why she sort of lets him, because she's like, it's also going back to those same old habits, I think, where she's like, I would rather just let him be subdued right now than try to fight him and cause a ruckus. But here's the thing about her thought process for this. It's really important. She wanted to stop him, but she felt her body begin to tingle at the old familiar touch. And throughout the next couple paragraphs, she keeps hearkening back to, this is familiar. This is the way things were. Even though it's been almost a full year, this is the way that things were. And I'm kind of just longing for some kind of physicality. You know what I mean?
Punch Elias in his freaking face. That's all I'm going to say on that, because that's just wrong.
And so she's distracted because he is once again trying to sneak in there.
He's pulling his old bag of tricks. One trick pony. That's the only thing he knows how to do.
Yep. And so Ava, thank God, sees everything happening and is like, she's waiting for Skyelar to take charge and tell him no. And when she doesn't, Ava's like, all right, motherfucker, and changes into the Panther and attacks them. Because she's like, you cannot do this to my cousin. The Panther, of course, attacks Aezra. Aezra, in his drunken stupor, tries to attack back. Meanwhile, Skylar's like...
I'm trying to see that. That almost looks comical.
Yeah. Yeah, where he's trying to sober up a little bit, but he can't quite. And, of course, Aezra gets bitten and, falls down on the ground and is in pain. Skyelar doesn't take sympathy on him, thank God. But she just kind of does one of those, all right, I've had enough. And sets him on his way. She puts her foot down because she even says, I've grown since you last saw me. It's a shame you're still the same monster from a year ago. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, kind of redeems a little bit some of that, like, letting him do his old tricks thing.
Yeah.
Because she's, like, remembering, oh, this is who I am.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You still do the same tired old stuff.
Yep. And
don't get me wrong, he feels good, but it's still the same old stuff.
Exactly. And we're not about the same old stuff anymore. And he pleads with her and is just, please don't send me away.
He is so pathetic.
Yes. And Skyelar, he says, please don't kick me out. I miss you so much. And she just is like, blank, gray-eyed stare. Just, well, that's a pity. Can't say I miss anything about you. And blam, door closes in his face. And just like that.
Oh, yeah, magic closed it, too.
And he is also revoked from being allowed on her property again. Because when she closed the door, that took him away. Her thing in the first book with Aezra, that was not something I think she thought that she could just walk away from it. And
she did.
And be like, all right, I'm good. But I think she really grossly underestimates how much control he had over her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the shitty thing with those kind of abusive relationships, is you just don't realize until you're finding yourself falling back into that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's not good. So then the next time we see Skyelar is bright and, well, I should say dark and early, because Delia gets these things started before the sun comes up. It's a very, very, very pivotal chapter in this book. Chapter 20. It's called You Fight Me. And this is where Cordelia and James agree that for the betterment of the county and to help find a cure for creatures, they need to show the county and the people that they are a family to be trusted. So they decide to draw the blood of every Jericho family member that lives in Murr County. And that's what they think will tell, because if they draw the blood and then show the results to the public, they think that that's going to make the public go, well, we're being really transparent, so you can trust us, right? This is all a good thing.
That sounds like such a politician's thinking.
The whole family is in Verham Labs, tired. Half of them are falling asleep. Like, Ava is leaning on a chair near Skye. Skye's standing up against the wall, eyes droopy, like, why the fuck am I here? She's actually texting Elias. And Ava, no one knows that but Ava, and the only reason Ava knows that is because of the stupid, dopey-ass grin Skyelar had. It's similar to the grin I get on my face when I say his name. It's this stupid, dopey-ass grin she has, where she's just on her phone, just doing one of these things, and then all of a sudden she gets something, like her phone vibrates, and she looks at it, and she's just like... Ava's looking at her like... I'm happy that you're happy, but I also am really grossed out by this right now, because this is just that. But Skylar's just minding her own and texting Elias, and then the more she hears everybody around her kind of arguing about, because an argument starts about, you know, Noel's like, Dad, we don't really have to do this, and James is like, yeah, you do. We need to, and Cordelia's like, everybody just fall in line and do this. The wheels in her head start turning, and she starts to realize she doesn't think that her mother and James are disclosing the real reason for this testing. The reason they give is what I said, where they want the public trust and blah, blah, blah. But Skylar's like, there's something else going on. Something's up, and I've been out of the loop with it, and now I'm a little worried that I need to start protecting myself. So at one point, whenever everybody's just, they're going down the line, drawing the blood, Skyelar looks up and is like, so what happens if I don't agree to forfeit my genetic code to your twisted attempts to stop Darwinism? I just love how she says it, because it's very much a, you know what? If humans are stupid enough to cross paths with creatures, they deserve to die.
Yeah.
Like, y'all need to know how far you can step.
Oh, but it's the whole inferiority complex.
Yes.
Of humanity.
Yes.
Oh, we have to be at the top of the food chain. Why?
Yeah, I know. That's the question she's essentially posing.
I mean, who gives a shit?
Yeah, whatever. So, of course, Peyton, because now, so yesterday in the book, before this, that was the day before the full moon. Now we're talking about, this is the day of. So if you thought Peyton was aggravated before, she
looks like she's jonesing.
Yeah, like she is. Skyelar even like notices, I'm pretty sure there's a description in here where you can actually see Peyton's skin just vibrating. Peyton has to chime in with, Skyelar, just don't start, which is a fair, you know, Peyton's like, just do this and fucking stop trying to cause a fight all the time. You know, when you think about sisters or siblings talking, I think that's one of those things where it's like, I mean, that's a fair request.
That is a fair request, but at the same time, she wasn't really starting anything. She's sitting there just
yeah.
looking at her phone.
She was asking a basic question.
Yeah.
You know? And because Skyelar wants to know, what happens if I refuse you? And no one really gives her an answer.
Oh, no, they're afraid to.
Well, what do you think would happen if she refused them? What would they do?
At first, nothing, but then they would find a way to sit there and physically, like, either capture her or detain her.
Yeah.
In order to get it. But they couldn't do it initially because if they tried, one, Noel will step in.
Oh, yeah.
And two, they don't have legal precedent to do it.
Yeah. So they're kind of walking a fine line here.
They're bullshit.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what you do in those types of positions. Is I'm not really gonna say anything yet or be official, but you really should do this.
Yeah. And well, Cordelia, to your point of the bullshit, goes as far as to say, Skyelar, remember, this is for the greater good. You should want to do something for someone else for a change. Skyelar goes to say something, but Noel's just like, don't say anything, just So she doesn't. Skyelar does well and keeps her mouth closed to try to avoid more 5:30 a.m. conflict. But the whole time, she's thinking, one of the things that she thinks to herself that she, really kind of, you get the feeling she resents her family for is, she thinks, how much have I done for this fucking family? And I don't get credit for that. Not just that she helps Peyton all the time, but she did everybody a favor. And when she realized there was conflict and she was at the center of it for the incident, she left. She left in an effort to ease that conflict. All right, y'all don't want to be around me? I'm going to fucking go away. But that wasn't enough for the family.
No. That part of the Jericho family will not be satisfied until Skyelar Jericho is ash.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no other way to put it.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what her thought process is. She's like, I've done so much for everybody my whole life. And now Cordelia is claiming that I'm being selfish by not wanting to do something for somebody else for a change. Bitch, I only became selfish in this last year. And I'm entitled to, because look what I went through. And you did nothing to help me. You gave me a wedding dress.
She's only turned selfish in probably the last 3 months.
Probably.
Because honestly, in that year's time, it sounds like that she went off the grid.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, she got herself a vehicle and all that, but she went and kind of just hit up the mountain.
Yeah.
And stayed away. So I don't think it was, I'm going to be up in everybody's business. I mean, went to the church.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But she
stayed low profile.
Very low profile.
And that was...
Well, what else did she need? She had Elias. Exactly. She didn't need anything else.
And to her, that's like, why are you shitting on my parade? I'm entitled and allowed to be selfish. Because it's my life.
Not in Cordelia Danes' mind.
Because
all sacrifices are made for science.
And why do you think that it's so important for Cordelia to have Skyelar's blood? Do you think that her and James brought the whole family in just to get Skyelar?
It was just to get Skyelar. Because they have a feeling her blood's got something in it.
So Skyelar has something they need, and this was the best way they could think to ask
That was the best they could come up with, and it shows you how limited their brain power is.
Yeah. So Noel, trying to again be the referee, tries to calm the situation and be like, Dad, is this really necessary? Delia, I don't think we can do this. And James flat out says, there is more danger in this room alone than I am willing to risk in my city.
You know what? In my city, you're talking to your own damn family, and you're being that much of a jackass.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, honestly, I would be some less family members, in reality, if that was the case. If they were so dangerous, the way he puts them.
Yeah.
He should be dead right then and there.
Right. So then Cordelia chimes in with something that really strikes I think, a surprising nerve with Skyelar. Cordelia says, "Oh, I don't know about that, James. Haven't you heard about the club in the mountain? I can only hope my daughter is keeping clean of that filth." Everybody starts talking about it and just kind of lets the words exist in the air. But Skyelar thinks to herself, hold up, does she just use the singular version of that word? She knows she got two of us, right? Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, she doesn't consider Skyelar her daughter.
No, she doesn't.
The fact that she says that.
Oh, yeah.
And
the singular daughter.
Did you use the singular version of that?
And Skyelar is also thinking, she's like, hold up. Why is she sitting there acting like Peyton's such an angel? If she knew what Peyton did, I know what Peyton does. If she knew the things Peyton did, maybe she would feel the same way about her that she does toward me. But of course, Skylar's not going to do that because that's not her MO for Peyton.
As much as she wants to, though, being like.
And there's this. The reason I keep coming back to the whole protector role Skylar's taken on is because I think. I mean, you tell me what you think. Is there something more to that than just a sisterly bond for that protector? Because Skyelar has a lot of opportunity to really throw Peyton under the bus, and some siblings would. Where it's like, oh, you think I'm bad? Wait till you hear what she did.
Yeah, so, and you've seen many siblings do that.
And so why would Skyelar go out of her way to think those things, but then not act on it? There's something...
I think the incident has a lot to do with it.
You think so?
I think so. I think because even though she's been brainwashed that it was her fault, even though she has no memory of what the hell happened or how it happened or anything before that event, she holds herself to account.
Yeah, she does.
And so as much as she wants to sit there and be like, you know what, Peyton, hello, bus.
Yep.
Cordelia.
Peyton, bus.
Yeah. I mean, basically, she could sit there and absolutely shit on everybody in the town. And probably could.
Yeah.
And be justifiable for it.
Yeah.
She won't do it because she still feels like she's paying a penance for something that she's blamed for.
Okay.
Even though it's not it's more of a subconscious than an actual conscious.
Yeah. So, to confirm what Skyelar is thinking, to confirm it with herself, she decides, you know what, while I'm waiting and they're all bickering about the club in the mountain and shit, let me see what my good old big sister's been up to. So she reads Peyton's memories. She learns that last night, Peyton fucked Aezra. She is very upset to herself about it because she looks at that not necessarily as a betrayal, but as a danger. She's like, hold up. In her mind, she's thinking, Peyton doesn't realize how dangerous this guy really is. And I can't let her get involved like that.
Too late.
So she starts kind of badgering her sister a little mentally, and Noel's just like, leave her alone. You know, and so then all of a sudden, you know, breaking her thought process and shit, Cordelia's like, all right, Skyelar, pony up. Come on, give me your arm. Skylar's like, nah, I'll pass, thanks. Because she wants to know, what's going to happen if I tell you no?
Yeah.
What if I don't want to share my blood with you? So there's a big to-do about it. And also, it is worth noting that in this room, not only is the entire Jericho family there, but Wesley's there, Sebastian's there. So you've got the attached people that are there too. Lola's there, and so is CJ. And that's because CJ works there. She's helping.
Yeah, but you knew that was going to happen, and that's another reason why Skyelar doesn't want anything to do. He's like, I don't want to have anything to do with that bitch.
That's it, because Skyelar makes it a point to say, I don't want CJ drawing my blood. And CJ takes offense to the as
Oh, of course.
where she's like, you need to get over it. Aezra's finally happy. And Skyelar's like, okay.
That is one of the funniest scenes.
Yeah.
Even in the audiobook, it's almost hilarious because you almost, for a split second, you could almost hear the laugh come through. Like,
yeah.
Really, he's so happy. That's why he was at my house last night.
Yeah, Cordelia's like, no, for real, you need to do something good. And Skyelar's like, tell me what it's for. Tell me the real reason. And everybody, she asks Peyton, she asks Cordelia, everybody, and they're like, we can't tell you that. That's proprietary.
Bullshit. That's not, no, if you're drawing my blood, I need to know what it's for.
Mm-hmm. And then Skyelar even says that, and she's like, if you tell me what it's for, we can strike a deal. Maybe I can help you. Like, what if this is something we can work on together? And Cordelia's immediate response is, absolutely not. There is no deal striking. There is no deal striking. There is no, you either give your blood or we take it from you.
Bullshit.
And she defends herself even more, saying what needs to be said. She says, because everybody's like, come on, let's help cure the sick and blah, blah, blah.
Like, no.
And she's like, no, I can't cure anything because nothing is sick. We are not a disease. Mm-hmm. I am not a plague. So I think it's interesting how she formatted that phrasing where she refers to the creature populace as a disease, but herself as a plague. No one's really called her that. Where do you think that comes from?
It's just a fact because she's not, she's a rare creature.
That makes sense.
And the fact that for some reason, stuff that happens usually, especially big bad things, seems to happen when she's around.
Yeah.
So they look at her as the plague.
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
No one
I'm
said as
surprised.
much, but...
I'm kind of surprised you haven't gotten to the point in the books where somebody sits there and really goes, full-on religion. You are the Antichrist.
Well, they do. Her nickname is the Angel of Death.
Yeah.
So it's similar. But Cordelia's immediate response, because she can't let her daughter outdo her. She can't let this plague outdo her.
Yeah.
Her immediate response is, you're right, you're nothing but a murderer of your own family. Hold up. What family did Skyelar murder?
Ooh, wait a minute. So she is adopted.
And...
whose kid is it, though?
Skylar's immediate response, so you think that it means Skylar's adopted? It
very well be, because... you're the murderer of your own family.
And as far as we know, all the Jerichos are accounted for.
Exactly. So, there was another family that died in the incident, and she was the only one left. I mean, it would make sense.
We're trying to piece it together. I've got this shit-eating grin on my face. I'm the cat that ate the canary. Skyelar... I mean, she is rapid fire for being like 5, 6 a.m. She is rapid fucking fire. Her immediate response, and she doesn't even regret saying it, she yells to her mother, the only one I'd ever consider murdering is you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that foreshadowing?
Could be. It very well could be. She might get taken over by a demon spirit and just... I've wanted to do this for a long time. No, I'm your mother. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well,
of course, Noel steps in to try to calm things. Cordelia gets upset. Whatever. It's the same kind of stuff,
Do you see a pattern here?
The cyclical... This family is so dysfunctional. And they're stuck in this cyclical rut of fighting, and the same people do the same, but that's just how they are. In Noel's efforts to calm things, a really beautiful moment happens. Everybody's just up in arms, yelling, and Peyton, of course, is getting upset because it's the day of the full moon and whatever. And Noel just looks at Skyelar and
ETs are kicking in.
Yeah. Noel just looks at Skyelar and tries to put on his best calming pastor facade, and he's just like, Sky, just focus on me. he kind of takes a page out of Elias's book. And it's probably because in this last year, I would say he has probably witnessed Elias do that a lot.
Especially on Sundays.
Yeah. So he looks at Skye and is just like, focus on me. And so she does. And for one of what we can assume is the first times, she pulls Noel into that focus bubble, that safety, because she needs something. And that's her go-to. And it even says all the arguing and finger pointing came to a muffled halt, and everything was a pixelated blur. And he has done this with her before, but it's always amazing to him because magic always amazes him. That's why he's so supportive of her, because she is amazing. And he knows she
done
can
that
be.
Before. It only in times of when he was with Skyelar that he went into focus. Okay, I was gonna say, because that may be a latent ability that he has.
No, she does it for him. And so they get into that little bubble, and he just provides some of that fatherly love and reassurance that she needs, because she's clearly missing it from her mother. So Noel, it goes on and is like, I will always be here to protect you. No one's going to hurt you. And she's like...
They always say that, and then they die. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She's like, I know, but I'm finally me. She's like, I finally feel happy. And he's like, if you're happy, then so am I. But I want to make sure this is the life you want. You've got to trust me. And she just she starts welling up with tears. And he's like, do you trust me? Do you love me? She's like, of course I love you. And he's like, okay, please do this. And she's like, I will only do it because you're asking me to.
Again, he's putting her in positions that are basically not only dangerous for everybody else, but dangerous to herself.
Yeah.
Just because he's trying to do the right thing for the family.
Yeah.
When he's a preacher.
Yeah.
He ain't dumb. He ought to be able to see how the family is torn apart.
Yeah.
And instead of bringing in the good parts that are left, like Regal and some of the others, and then the children. Cordelia, bye.
Yeah.
James, here's a waterfall we'll throw you over. Stuff like that.
Let the merfolk eat it.
Yeah, just here you go. You keep the good parts, and that's what he should be focusing on. Instead, he's trying to, I was raised, we sit there and keep the family together. When the family ain't working, you don't do that.
And this family definitely ain't working.
Literally, he's asking his daughter to put her life on the line just to appease Cordelia and James. That's it. It's not for science.
And so then Skyelar agrees. She drops the focus bubble, and she proceeds to take her own blood to extract her own. And it's a really cool description. She yells for Chloe Jo to bring her a vial. 1 vial, mind you. Everybody else had to give 5. Skyelar is giving 1.
And she said...
So she's putting her foot down on this. She's like, if I have to do it, this is all you get, motherfuckers. And so the way she does it, she doesn't let anybody touch her. She does it all herself. Chloe Jo is holding a vial, and Skyelar just kind of runs her fingers along her arm to get a vein popped out, and she does just like she did with Peyton, where she just magically punctures a little hole, pulls the blood out in a ribbon, and plops it right into the vial until it's full, and then heals herself back up again.
And the whole time Cordelia's sitting there looking...
Yeah.
Just horrified.
She is horrified. A lot of them are, because they've never seen this before. They've never seen Skyelar do this.
And that's what she didn't want. And that was the thing, is that's why she didn't want to donate the blood, because she didn't want it. Look, because really what they're going to do is they're going to study the blood, because they're going to sit there. Well, what makes her susceptible to be able to do stuff like that? Because we need to, dissect people to figure it out, because we're human and we're generally stupid. So that's what we got to do.
Yeah.
And it's...
Yeah.
And so, honestly, she should have done it the old-fashioned way. But, you know what? Kudos to her. She did it. But she also did it as a show of strength.
Yeah.
That,
for sure.
Okay, I'm doing this, but you come at me. Mm-hmm. This is what you've got to deal with.
Because I can do more than this. If you're scared about this. Yeah.
And this is only just drawing blood.
And, of course, Peyton looks at her and is like, oh, my God, quit showing off.
I love that. That's how she's reacting, even though she's jonesing like a you know, crazy person. Really? You got to show off?
And she even continues with a really, like, you know, angsty snarl. She's like, you know, that's exactly what's wrong with you, Skyelar. Dad always gives you special treatment. What do I ever get? You know.
You get Cordelia.
You get Cordelia. That's what you get. And Skyelar just comes with, you keep pushing me like that, and I'll show you myself what you can get. And, of course, Peyton can't back down from a challenge, especially on this day. Because her beast is itching and ready to do something. And she's like, all right, okay.
Let's go, motherfucker.
Yeah. So Wesley is just like, nope, we're going to go home. We're not starting a fight. And so as Peyton agrees, reluctantly, because all the blood has been drawn, she goes to leave. On her way out, purposefully bumps by Skyelar just to give her one more, like, fuck you. So Skyelar fucking slams the door right in Peyton's face and breaks her nose.
Yeah.
And then it's just madness from there. Nobody can stop them because now the girl has drawn blood. And this is it. We're going on a fight rampage now. So Peyton instantly starts to turn into a wolf. Skylar's laughing. Peyton's nose heals, of course. And Skylar's laughing and like, all right, challenge accepted. So they go out into the hallway. Noel and them are trying to keep the non-parties inside and safe.
They're like, well, we're going to just close off this corridor.
They are. They're hunkering down. And so Peyton and Skye go out into the hallway because Skye tries to leave and be like, yeah, you want to fight? Come on. So she goes out into the hall trying to leave. She hears Peyton change into her wolf and come charging at her and just stands there. If that is not the most cocky come at me bro kind of moment. And she just stands there with her back turned to Peyton. And then, when Peyton gets within this much of her, Skyelar turns and just sends her flying to the end of the hallway. Rips up the walls. So the walls of Verham Labs right there are just torn to shit and messed up.
Oh, they got plenty of money.
Oh, yeah. And so when she gets, Peyton is like under all the rubble from where the drywall and stuff fell on her. And Skyelar comes over to her and is like, you stay down. You do not always have to fight. And Peyton's like, you know, in her wolfy way, and gets up and is like, yeah, I do gotta fight because I'm about to win this. So she comes at Skyelar again, and Skyelar asks one more time, please don't make me do this. Don't make me lay you out like this. But she isn't given a choice. Peyton makes her do it, and Skyelar does. It's like they fight.
Yeah.
And Peyton ends up getting laid out with a bunch of wall and ceiling and shit all over her. She turns back into her human form because she's finally like submitted.
I was gonna say
her wolf got its fill for a second, you know, and then Skyelar comes over. She tries to offer a helping hand because after all, that is her sister. And she comes over to offer a helping hand, and Peyton's just, fuck off.
That's like her favorite word.
It is. And so Skyelar just shakes her head, turns around, and before she leaves, she says something very important. She says, just pick a side, will you, before you get yourself killed. So after that happens, everybody goes their separate ways. Skyelar leaves.
I love how the family, you know, literally just had an entire corridor destroyed. And they just kind of, man, I'm going to go back home and we're going back up to the church.
Again, normalcy. This is normal for the Jericho family. When Sky and Peyton start to fight, that's why Noel just started getting people into the ring to hunker down. Because he's like, nope, there ain't no stopping them now. They got to work it out on their own. We cannot interfere. So it's normalcy. So,
that's messed up.
Yeah.
That just goes separate ways.
So in chapter 22, Skyelar is very upset. She is full of rage. She's like, you would think she's the Lycan. She's so full of rage. And she brings a storm with her. Because remember, she can do that. She can call upon the rain and the storms and everything. And of course, where does she go after this? Elias's house. And she brings that storm with her, and he sees it coming from miles away. Plus, he already knew what was going on because she was texting it.
I wouldn't be surprised if she developed a storm and you see 5 tornadoes on every side.
Right.
I mean, it's like the worst severe thunderstorm you could possibly think of, and it's just trailing her.
Yeah.
By not even 10 feet or something.
Yeah. Oh no, this one she puts over her and lets it lead her there.
Oh wow.
And because that's how Eli was able to see the storm coming before he saw her. So this chapter is, I say this a lot, but I don't even care. This entire chapter is wordless. Dialogueless, I guess I should say. They literally
are talking in their minds.
They don't even do that. It's literally just looks between them.
Oh wow.
They know what those looks mean. There's no mind talking, there's no outward verbal talking. It is all just physical body language. And that to me shows how connected they've gotten, her and Elias. I mean, over this last year, they went from being able to just sit side by side at a waterfall and contemplate and be comfortable to no words, and they know exactly what the other person is thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even have to read in their mind. They just know. So Skyelar drives with all the rage in the world to Elias's house, gets out of her Jeep, stands there in the yard. He's standing on the porch with a bourbon in his hand, just leaning there waiting for her. And when she gets there, he lets her just stand in the storm for a minute because that's what she needs.
That's what she likes.
Yeah.
She likes just letting the wind and the lightning and the rain hit her.
Yep.
It refreshes her.
Because she can feel it. She describes it in here whenever it's being described of her standing in there. She can feel it soaking all the way to the bone. And like you said, it's a refreshment for her. And so she stands there long enough that it says if she stood there long enough, she could shut the entire world out, freeze time, and just let herself go. She can't freeze time, but that's what it feels like to her. And Elias just watches her for a minute. And then he finally decides, all right, now it's time to reel her in and let's get her out of the ring now that she's had her moment. So he walks over there, soaking wet, but he's holding his bourbon glass. You know, he's holding it like this. No rain is getting in his glass, but he's soaking wet. He walks up to her, hands her the glass. She drinks it, gives it back to him, and then kind of creates this little umbrella over them. Not a physical umbrella. It's just the rain stops where they are standing. And so he's standing with her. They're just staring up at the porch. He kind of looks at her, but she doesn't really look at him because she's so just angry at what just happened. And whenever she finally decides, all right, I need to sit down. I think I'm good. She walks over there, and as like a little fun thing, when he doesn't instantly follow her, she makes it rain on him so that he will follow her. As her way of being like, all right, thanks for coming out here and giving me a drink, but let's go under the porch now. And, you know, he even reflects when he's thinking while he's standing with her. He said he thinks at a time like this, it would be so easy for him to become just as vulnerable as she was and let the physical spark take shape. Because when they're like this, both of their inhibitions are completely lowered. Yeah. They've got their guards down. They don't have to worry about anything. And he's like, I could just let that spark form. But he doesn't. And he just goes back and he sits with her on there's a porch swing on his porch. And they just sit together for a minute. She still sips on his bourbon every now and again. They're watching the rain. And she leans his head on his shoulder. And then kind of the intimacy of the moment takes shape. And they lean in and get just a whisper away from a kiss. And then she feels him kind of just pull away.
Yep, that's all he does.
She even says, like, she thinks to herself, they can't be together, and she would never understand why. All she knew was that it had to be that way. Elias was a different kind of mythic, and he had some irrational fear that he was deadly for her. What kind of mythic do you think he is? What other kind is there?
Maybe he's an angelic mythic.
You think so?
Oh, it would make sense. Because the power that he has and the wounds that he's covered.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you never hear... the way you've written the characters, you don't hear of scars on Sanguis.
Right.
Even though they heal, you'd think there would be, like, scars all over.
Mm-hmm.
And yet... here is Elias, and he has tattoos all over him because he had to cover them, basically, because of all the damage he's endured.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he is a form of an angel. Maybe a lesser angel, but lost the wings, but kept some of the power.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is a theory, but, come on. What would make him so much different from other mythics?
Yeah,
because there is no classification scale.
Mm-hmm.
Is he a god mythic? A artist mythic?
And there's just not enough known about the mythic species to be able to say, do those classes exist?
They probably do, but the ones that would probably know about it are in the other two realms.
Very interesting theories. And that chapter is actually the last you physically see Skyelar. She's talked about later, but we're not going to get into that. The way that chapter ends is she's just saddened that she can't even get him to kiss her when she's upset, but it's okay. She's not holding it against him. And she just leans her head on his shoulder and cries.
It's like, that's just dirty.
Yeah. So that was Skyelar's involvement in Book 2, False Idols. Kind of her character, how she's grown. I would say, do you think that she has made a lot of good progress?
Yes.
Especially from Book 1.
She's made a lot of progress, and she's learned self-control.
Yeah, she has.
Because she could have easily destroyed the whole lab. And it would have been funny, too.
Because the next book starts to get really hairy, and we start working toward something that happens in Book 5.
Book 5, that's the one.
Next week, we're going to dive into Veiled Commandments. So before we go, as another reminder, just all 4 books are available on StevieJoAuthor.com. Paperback, hardcover, dust jacket. If you subscribe to my quarterly newsletters, you get free shipping on all Angel of Death products from my website through the entire 2023 year. So that's a really good deal. And be sure you like and comment on this video. I want to know, what do we want to know for this one? I think I want to know why you think Skyelar was allowing Aezra that little snippet back into her life.
Oh, Lord.
Why? And you can also try to answer, although we'll talk more about it in future videos, why is Skyelar's blood so important for the Conquistadors to have? What could she possibly be able to do? What are they hoping to get from it? So tell us that in the comments. And be sure you subscribe to watch all the videos. and get more updates on the Murmurs of Murr County series. And we love you. Thank you for sticking through the end, and we will see you next week.
Catch up on the Angel of Death series today. The first 4 entries are now available directly at steviejoauthor.com. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the Composition of Imagination to learn more behind-the-scenes info and stay up to date on the fun and lively discussion.